from Christian City Church Victory. What did you think of that, Andy?
Yeah, it was good. This week they had a full-on band up front, really nice drum set behind some muffling screens and guitars, piano, and then a big just black backdrop, which was black, and they project stuff on it. So it was very impressive when I walked in. Yeah, it was the first time I'd seen something like that in a church.
The music was such a big part of it. It was very musical. They had the only time there wasn't music was during the sermon, and even as they got towards the climax of the sermon, the keyboard girl came up and started playing softly, and then added a bit of mood to the sermon. And that's when he started talking about people coming to God, and they were very simple songs. They were just a couple of lines repeated quite endlessly. Just when you think it's over,
they do it again.
Yep, it's all. And there was a really trendy band. There was a group of singers up the front. They were all dressed up.
Yeah, one of them completely eye-fucked me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was so into me.
If you were to run a church like a business, I think that's what it would look like.
Oh,
It was tuned in to impress.
Yeah. And there was there must be thousands of pounds worth of equipment, tens of thousands of pounds worth of equipment, dollars worth, thousands of dollars worth of equipment, just to make it more of an experience for the churchgoer.
And speaking of thousands of dollars, the tithes and offerings section was mentioned last week at Christian Science. It was they didn't make a big fuss, but I think you could fairly safely say they did make a big fuss about tithes and offerings.
Yeah, he gave like one specific example of someone receiving backloads. Oh, no, actually, he said that he sees a number of people coming crying and thanking God because they're giving him an offering and they received it back.
Yep. And he also made it clear that God commands people to give them money, to give the church money. And then he went on to say, not only does God command it, but talked about all the good things that would happen with the money that people gave. We got the feeling that no expense was spared the whole time. I mean, even when Andy got off with asked for some water, they gave him actual bottled water, Franklin's bottle.
We got talking to a couple of people at the end, and they're like, "Do you want water?" And I was like, "Yeah." Do you want a drink? And I was like, "Yeah, just water." Look at that. But yeah, at the beginning, we got loads of cool free shit.
Let's give a look. Actually, Andy, I didn't put my hand up enthusiastically enough to get some. Andy stuck his hand up very confidently.
Cherry ripe, which is always good if you want to meet God. You have to have sustenance.
Here's some of the really glossy material they have. That looks like they've got some sort of graphic design company to do it all. It's very spectacular show.
And God gives out DVDs. How good's that?
It's speaking in tongues.
Only a little bit. I wanted more.
Yeah,
I wanted people to collapse on the floor and freak out.
And there was no. It wasn't powerful. There was quite a bit of shouting, but it wasn't as emotionally charged as I thought it might be. There was a lot of motivational speak. I remember him saying, "You've got to believe that good things are going to happen. You've got to believe that great things are on their way." And yeah, he was very. It wasn't far removed from a motivational talk at times.
Definitely.
Not to say that the Bible wasn't very heavily involved, which it certainly was, but the presentation was very.
Yeah, well, he gave examples from TV, didn't he? He's obviously trying to. Well, he is appealing to the younger crowd and using examples that they would know.
So they used the Message Bible, which is a version of the Bible that seemed like it had more Pentecostal language than the other English translations. It just had it seemed to suit that church more than they would have used the King James version. Would have been a bit too old English for them. He started talking about the non-believers, and he asked us to put up our hands if he didn't say. But what he should have said was, is there anyone out there that doesn't believe in God? Is there anyone who isn't convinced of God? Instead, he chose the words, is there anyone out there who's distant from God? So he was classing people as close to God or distant from God. There was no non-believers. It was distant from God. And the same with the guy we talked to afterwards. He said, are you guys from church? And we said, no, we're not churchgoers at all. And he said, oh, so you're pre-believers. You actually had that term there, pre-believers, which they see as people either not yet believers or are believers. Yeah, they had a separate area for the kids. The kids went over and it actually looked like they were being taught how to act.
Yeah,
so
there was one person waving in front.
They had a lady in front of the kids facing them, and she was showing them how to wave their arms. And some of the kids obliged by doing the same, even though I don't think they really understood. I think they were learning the behaviour, certainly from a young age, and there was definitely a lot of kids there. So they were very open about, they wouldn't use the term brainwashing, but they were very open about how they were getting into this community program that, it's a community program that works with the schools, and that the church has been allowed to be involved with that. And they were very open about the fact that they were using this program to minister to the kids, and they spoke about how they got some of the kids to come to Jesus, and the crowd loved it.
Yeah, they applauded. They said they managed to get 48 children to give their lives to Jesus, which I did not applaud at all. In fact, I said a little swear word under my breath. Let's talk about the bloke afterwards. We spoke to. We were offered to go and sit down on these seats and speak to the ministers who give the talk for the day, and there was the minister who was very quiet all the way through. He didn't say very much, but then there was this one guy who came over. Do you remember his name?
No, yeah.
No, he had trendy glasses on though, and he was dressed nicely. Could be.
Craig. So Craig.
Yeah, okay. Then Craig, we'll call him Craig. But he came up to us, and he was very. I mean, he because my main arguments were from science, and he comes from a science background himself, and it was very. He offered to help us look into our own journey to find Jesus, which is always very nice. But if you were searching and you needed guidance, he'd be a very convincing person to go see. If you looked hard enough, he'd help you find Jesus. And we once again asked about their own experience with God and Jesus. And he would, trendy, young person, very good looking. And he would invite you to find Jesus with him.